Ma'am, you need to step aside. This is first class. The gate manager's voice cut through Terminal B like a blade. Passengers turned. Phones lifted. Another black woman about to be humiliated. Dr. Amara Williams stood at Gate 47, LAX, Terminal B. 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Delta Flight 447 to Atlanta. She wore simple jeans and a faded NYU sweatshirt. Nothing screamed wealth or status. Brad Hoffman, 28, crisp uniform, power-drunk smirk, blocked her path to the jet bridge. His voice carried deliberately. 200 passengers watched. 3 people were already live streaming. These real-life stories happen every day. Black stories buried under corporate PR. Touching stories that expose the bias poisoning our world. Have you ever watched someone's entire world crumble in real time? What you're about to see will change how you think about power, assumptions, and the price of prejudice. Mara pulled out her boarding pass. First class, seat 1A. The paper trembled slightly in her grip. Brad barely glanced at it. I don't care what your ticket says. Someone like you doesn't belong in 1A. The words hung in the terminal air. Passengers within earshot stopped mid-conversation. A woman with a crying baby paused her shushing. A businessman lowered his Wall Street Journal. Amara's phone appeared in her hand. She started recording. Her voice stayed level. Could you repeat that, please? You heard me. Brad crossed his arms, positioning himself squarely in front of the jet bridge entrance. We have standards here. Behind him, a few passengers shuffled nervously. A college-aged girl with purple hair lifted her phone. Her TikTok account, @JusticeWatcher, already had 47,000 followers watching her live stream. This is disgusting, the girl whispered into her phone. I'm watching a Delta employee racially profile a passenger right now. LAX Terminal B, Gate 47. The comments started flowing. Fire emojis. Angry faces. Hashtags forming in real time. Amara checked her boarding pass again. It showed something unusual in the corner. An invite code. Not a purchased ticket. A company-provided seat. Sir, my boarding pass is valid. I'd like to board now. Brad laughed. The sound carried across the gate area. Right. And I'm sure you're a VIP guest, too. Amara's eyes didn't waver. Actually, yes. I am. More phones came out. The TikTok stream hit 50,000 viewers. Comments poured in faster than the girl could read them. She'd never seen engagement like this. A Delta customer service supervisor appeared. Janet Mills, 15-year veteran, sensed trouble brewing. Her radio crackled with updates from other gates. Flight 457 was on time. Boarding should proceed smoothly. Nothing about this looked smooth. What seems to be the problem? Janet approached, with diplomatic caution. Brad turned to her with relief. Backup had arrived. This passenger is trying to use a fraudulent boarding pass. First class. Janet examined Amara's ticket. The paper looked legitimate. The invite code was unusual but not unheard of. Corporate travelers sometimes got special accommodations. Ma'am, could you show me some ID and the credit card you used to purchase this ticket? Marar's phone buzzed. A calendar alert flashed across the screen. Board meeting, 9 a.m. with a small airplane icon next to it. I didn't purchase this ticket. It was provided by my employer. Brad's smirk widened. Of course it was. Let me guess, you work for some non-profit? The insult landed hard. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. The live stream viewer count climbed toward 75,000. Amara reached into her purse. For just a moment, a black Centurion card caught the terminal lighting. American Express Centurion. The card that required a 7-figure income to qualify. She slipped it back quickly, but not before the TikTok camera caught it. Comments exploded. Did you see that card? That's a black Amex. This lady has money. Her phone buzzed again. The Delta app notification showed her frequent flyer status. Diamond medallion. The highest tier. Only earned by flying over 125,000 miles annually with Delta. Ma'am, we're going to need to see proper documentation, Janet said, trying to de-escalate while maintaining company protocol. The gate area filled with tension. Passengers heading to other flights slowed their walk to watch. Word spread through the terminal. Social media posts multiplied. Brad called security, his radio crackled. Gate 47, requesting passenger assistance. Possible boarding pass fraud. 7:02 p.m. Flight 447 was scheduled to depart at 7:25 p.m. 23 minutes to resolve this situation. Amara's phone showed another alert. An email marked urgent from the CEO's office. The subject line read, "Emergency board meeting moved to 8 a.m. Your attendance critical." She needed to be on this flight. Not tomorrow's flight, this one. "Sir, I understand you're doing your job, but I have documentation that proves this ticket is legitimate." "What kind of documentation?" Amara's finger hovered over her phone screen. She could end this confrontation right now. One tap would reveal everything. But something held her back. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the need to see how far this would go. The kind that will interest your district manager. Brad's confidence wavered for just a second. Then he doubled down. "Lady, I am the authority here. You're not getting on this plane." Airport security approached. 2 officers, looking reluctant to be involved in what was clearly becoming a viral incident. The TikTok stream hit 100,000 viewers. Comments flooded in from around the country. Screenshots were being shared on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The hashtag Delta discrimination started trending in real time. "Ma'am, we need you to step aside while we sort this out," one officer said gently. Amara looked at her phone. 7:05 p.m., 20 minutes until departure. Her flight to the most important meeting of her career. She smiled. Not a friendly smile, the kind of smile that comes right before someone's world changes forever. "Are you absolutely certain about this, Brad?" Something in her tone made him pause, but he was too far in to back down now. 200 passengers watched, thousands more online. His authority was on the line. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us," the security officer said. Amara nodded slowly. She reached into her leather bag, fingers wrapping around her iPad. Time to end this. The gate area buzzed with electricity. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Passengers pressed closer, phones held high. The collision of authority and resistance always drew crowds. 7:06 p.m., 19 minutes until scheduled departure. "Sir, before we go any further, I need you to call your district manager," Amara said, her voice carrying across the terminal space. Brad laughed, but it sounded forced now, uncertain. "The district manager doesn't get involved in passenger disputes?" "Tonight, he will." The TikTok stream hit 150,000 viewers. At Justice Watcher, could barely keep up with the comments flowing across her screen. Screenshots were being shared faster than she could track them. A travel blogger in the terminal recognized the viral potential. Marcus Chen from Miles and Points Daily started his own live stream from a different angle. His audience was smaller but influential. Industry insiders, airline executives, people who made decisions. Janet Mills stepped forward, trying to regain control of the situation. 15 years with Delta had taught her to read passenger dynamics. This felt different from typical boarding disputes. "Ma'am, we can resolve this quickly if you'll just work with us. I can see your ticket appears valid, but given the circumstances—" "What circumstances?" Amara's question cut through the diplomatic language. Janet hesitated. How do you say racial profiling without saying it? How do you acknowledge bias without admitting liability? The confusion around your boarding pass. More passengers gathered. A businessman in a $1,000 suit shook his head. This is ridiculous. Let the woman board. A teenage girl with her mother whispered loudly, Mom, this is so messed up. The mother nodded, filming with her phone. Honey, this is why we talk about these things at home. Brad's radio crackled. Gate 47, status report. He keyed the mic. Still handling the situation. Passenger is being non-compliant. Mara's eyebrows raised. Non-compliant? I'm standing here asking to board a flight with a valid ticket. Ma'am, please don't make this harder than it needs to be, one of the security officers said. The second officer looked uncomfortable. He'd worked LAX for 8 years. He'd seen his share of discrimination complaints. This was heading toward a lawsuit at light speed. 7:08 p.m. Final boarding call announced for Flight 447. The announcement sent a ripple of urgency through the crowd. Other passengers needed to board. The plane needed to depart on time. But nobody moved toward the gate. The drama was too compelling. Amara's phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Watching your live stream. Call me. Richard. She knew who Richard was. Richard Hayes, CEO of Delta Airlines. They'd exchanged numbers after the last board meeting. Another message appeared. Emergency meeting moved to 8 a.m. You must be there. Board decision depends on your vote. The weight of the situation crystallized. Missing this flight meant missing the CEO selection vote. Missing the vote meant the board would proceed without her input. A $60 billion decision made in her absence. Brad, I'm going to ask you one more time. Please call your district manager. And I'm telling you one more time, I don't need to call anyone. You're not boarding this aircraft. The TikTok viewer count hit 200,000. Comments poured in from across the country. Screenshots filled Twitter timelines. Facebook posts multiplied exponentially. Deltagate was trending nationally. A CNN producer monitoring social media flagged the story. A Washington Post reporter started drafting a preliminary article. The story was escaping the terminal, spreading through the digital ecosystem. Marcus Chen's stream attracted airline industry followers, current Delta employees, competitors' executives, FAA officials, people who understood the regulatory implications of viral discrimination incidents. His comment section filled with industry knowledge. Delta spent $847 million, 0 cents, on discrimination settlements since 2020. This is going to cost them big. Stock price is going to tank. 7:10 p.m., 15 minutes until departure. A gate agent approached Janet. Ma'am, we need to start boarding. We're going to miss our departure slot. Janet looked at the crowd. 200 passengers. Multiple live streams. Security officers. A brewing national incident. Start boarding other passengers around this situation, she decided. But nobody moved. The drama was magnetic. Passengers lined up behind the confrontation. But their attention stayed fixed on Amara and Brad. A pilot in uniform walked past, heading to the cockpit. He slowed, assessing the situation. Delays meant paperwork, investigations, potential legal issues. He approached Janet. What's the status? We need to push back in 12 minutes. Passenger boarding dispute. Security is handling it. The pilot looked at Amara, then at the crowd of recording passengers. Ma'am, is there a problem with your ticket? Amara held up her boarding pass. My ticket is valid. This gentleman has decided I don't belong in first class. The pilot examined the pass. First class, seat 1A. Invite code, clearly visible. Corporate travelers used these codes regularly. Sir, he addressed Brad, what exactly is the issue with this passenger's ticket? Brad's confidence wavered. The pilot's uniform carried different authority. Captains could delay flights, file reports, trigger investigation. There were questions about the legitimacy of her boarding pass. What questions? The ticket appears valid to me. The live stream audience sensed a shift. Comments reflected the changing dynamic. Pilot is backing her up. Brad is in trouble now. This is getting good. 7:12 p.m. 13 minutes to departure. Amara's phone showed missed calls. 4 from the CEO's office, 2 from board members, 1 from Delta's chief legal officer. The story was reaching corporate headquarters in real time. She smiled at Brad. Not angry, not triumphant. Almost sympathetic. Last chance, Brad. Call your district manager. I don't need to call anyone. The security officers exchanged glances. This was escalating beyond a simple boarding dispute. Viral incidents created departmental headaches, internal investigations, media scrutiny. Ma'am, one officer said carefully, is there someone we can call to verify your ticket? Amara's hand moved to her bag, her fingers wrapped around her iPad. The crowd sensed something changing. The energy shifted. Conversations quieted. Even the live stream comments slowed, as viewers focused on her movement. She pulled out the tablet, her thumb hovering over the power button. 7:13 p.m., 12 minutes to departure. Actually, yes, there is someone you can call. The terminal fell silent. 200 passengers held their breath. 250,000 people watched online. Airport security cameras captured every angle. Brad's face showed the first crack of uncertainty. Something in Amara's tone had changed. The quiet confidence was transforming into something else. Power. She pressed the power button. The iPad screen illuminated. But first, I think you should see something. The iPad screen came to life. Amara's thumb moved across the surface with practiced precision. The Delta app opened, displaying her frequent flyer account. At first glance, it looked like any other passenger profile. Name, contact information, miles, balance. But then the details became visible. Diamond medallion status. 347,000 miles flown in the current year. A 7-figure lifetime mile balance. Brad squinted at the screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. The numbers didn't make sense. Nobody flew that much, unless they were... Amara scrolled down. More information appeared. Board of Directors Access Portal. Company credit cards on file. Executive travel authorization codes. The blood drained from Brad's face. What is that? Amara turned the screen toward the crowd. The livestream cameras zoomed in, struggling to focus on the display. Comments exploded as viewers caught glimpses of the information. Corporate account holder, she said simply. Delta Airlines Board of Directors. Dr. Amara Williams, Chief Technology Officer. The words hung in the terminal air like a bomb, waiting to explode. Janet Mills took a step back. 15 years with Delta. She knew the board members' faces from company communications. She'd never seen them in jeans and sweatshirts at passenger gates. The pilot's expression changed instantly. Ma'am, we had no idea. Of course you didn't. Amara's voice remained calm. I was traveling incognito. Quality assessment. Seeing how Delta treats its regular passengers. Brad's mouth opened and closed without sound. His brain couldn't process the information fast enough. The woman he'd been humiliating for 15 minutes was technically his boss's boss's boss. The TikTok stream hit 300,000 viewers. Comments flowed too fast to read. Screenshots were being shared across every social media platform. Deltagate was trending #1 nationally. Marcus Chen's industry stream attracted Delta executives monitoring the situation. Current employees recognized the implications immediately. comments filled with insider knowledge about corporate hierarchy and board authority. Amara scrolled to another screen. Email threads with subject lines like CEO Search Committee and Q4 Board Meeting Agenda and Emergency Executive Session. I'm flying to Atlanta for an emergency board meeting at 8 a.m. We're interviewing candidates for the new CEO position. She looked directly at Brad. I'm the deciding vote. Security officers stepped back. This was beyond their jurisdiction now. Corporate politics, executive-level issues, the kind of situation that required lawyers and PR specialists. Janet's radio crackled. Gate 47, district manager en route. ETA 3 minutes. Too late. The story was already viral. The damage was already done. Amara opened another app, the Delta Internal Quality Assessment System, a platform board members use to monitor customer service standards. Her screen showed a recording interface. I've been documenting this entire interaction, audio, video, witness statements. Everything automatically uploads to our legal and HR systems. She'd been recording the discrimination in real time, using Delta's own internal systems. Brad's legs felt weak. His career was ending. He could see it happening in slow motion. The termination meeting. The HR investigation. The permanent mark on his employment record. Ma'am, I didn't know, he stammered. Didn't know what, Brad? That I was a board member, or that you shouldn't treat passengers like this regardless of who they are? The question cut through the noise. The crowd was silent. Even the live stream comments paused as viewers processed the implications. A Delta district manager appeared, running toward the gate. Tom Richards had been monitoring the social media explosion from his office. The PR department was already in crisis mode. He arrived breathless, immediately recognizing the corporate nightmare unfolding in real time. Dr. Williams, I'm Tom Richards, district manager. I sincerely apologize for this situation. Amara nodded acknowledgement, but didn't smile. Tom, your employee has created a significant problem for the company. Tom's face was pale. He'd dealt with customer complaints before, but never involving board members. Never with hundreds of thousands of people watching online. We'll resolve this immediately. Full investigation. Appropriate action will be taken. What kind of appropriate action? The question was direct, legal, the kind of question that required careful answers. Brad found his voice. Ma'am, I made a mistake. I was just trying to do my job. Your job is to discriminate against passengers based on their appearance? The words were calm but devastating. Every passenger in the terminal heard them. Every viewer online heard them. Every screenshot captured them. The pilot approached cautiously. Dr. Williams, we're prepared to depart whenever you're ready. We can hold the flight. Mara checked her phone. 7:15 p.m. 10 minutes past scheduled departure. But this was more important than schedules now. She opened her contacts and dialed a number. The call connected immediately. Richard? It's Amara, yes. I'm at LAX. No, I haven't boarded yet. We have a situation. The crowd realized she was calling the CEO. In real time. While standing in the middle of the terminal. A discrimination incident. Recorded. Viral. Currently trending nationally. She paused, listening. No, I'm not hurt. But the company has a problem. Tom Richards looked like he might faint. The district manager's worst nightmare was playing out in real time. A board member calling the CEO to report discrimination by his employees. Yes, I'll send you the recording. The passenger's name is Brad Hoffman, gate agent, 3 years of service. Another pause. Tom Richards is here, district manager. Tom's phone started ringing. The caller ID showed Delta Corporate Headquarters. Amara ended her call and looked at Brad. The CEO would like to speak with you personally. Brad's knees buckled slightly. Speaking with the CEO about a discrimination incident was career suicide. There was no coming back from that conversation. The live stream audience was ecstatic. Comments poured in faster than the platforms could handle them. This was better than any scripted drama. Real consequences, real power dynamics, real justice happening in real time. "Ma'am," Tom said carefully, "what can we do to resolve this situation?" Amara looked around the terminal. 200 passengers watching, thousands more online. Airport security, airline employees, a perfect audience for what came next. "I want to board my flight. I want to attend my meeting. And I want to ensure this never happens to another passenger." Simple demands, reasonable requests, but the implications were enormous. "Of course, absolutely, whatever you need." Amira held up her hand. "I'm not finished." The terminal fell silent again. This incident represents a systemic problem, not just with Brad, not just with LAX. With how Delta treats passengers who don't fit certain expectations. She paused, letting the words sink in. "I'm going to fix that problem." The live stream comments exploded. "She's about to change everything. This is history happening. Delta is about to get schooled." Tom's phone kept ringing. He was afraid to answer it. Amara walked toward the jet bridge. The crowd parted automatically. Security officers stepped aside. Janet Mills moved out of the way. She stopped next to Brad, who looked like he might collapse. "Brad, you made assumptions about me based on my appearance. Those assumptions nearly cost you your job. They definitely cost Delta millions in bad publicity." She paused. "What do you think we should do about that?" The question wasn't rhetorical. She wanted an answer. On camera, with hundreds of thousands of people watching. Brad's voice came out as a whisper. "I don't know, ma'am. I do." 7:25 p.m. Flight 447 finally pushed back from the gate. Amara sat in seat 1A, laptop open, preparing for the most important video conference in Delta's recent history. The first-class cabin buzzed with whispered conversations. Passengers stole glances at the woman who'd just turned a boarding dispute into a corporate crisis. Flight attendants provided extra attention, knowing they were serving a board member who'd been discriminated against by their own colleagues. At 30,000 feet, Amara connected to the aircraft's Wi-Fi and opened her secure video conference app. The emergency executive session was already in progress. CEO Richard Hayes appeared on screen first, his face grim. "Amara, thank God you're safe. The PR team is going insane. We've got reporters calling every 5 minutes." Chief Legal Officer Sarah Martinez joined the call. "The discrimination hashtag is trending #1. We're looking at potential lawsuits, federal investigations, stock price impact." VP of Human Resources David Kim connected from his home office. "I've been monitoring the social media response. This is unlike anything we've seen before. The video has been viewed over 2 million times in the past 3 hours. Chief Communications Officer Lisa Thompson's screen appeared. "CNN wants a statement. Washington Post is running a story in tomorrow's edition. We need to respond immediately." Amara listened to the panic in their voices. Seasoned executives reduced to crisis management mode by one discrimination incident at one gate. "How bad is the financial impact?" she asked. Richard pulled up real-time data. Stock dropped 4% in after-house trading. That's roughly $2.3 billion in market value. The board is demanding answers. Social media sentiment analysis shows 87% negative responses toward Delta, Lisa added. Brand reputation scores are falling faster than we can measure. Sarah's legal expertise kicked in. "We're looking at potential civil rights violations. Brad Hoffman's actions created massive liability exposure. The Justice Department could launch an investigation." Amara opened her own laptop files. "Let me show you exactly what happened." She shared her screen, displaying the recording from Delta's internal quality assessment system. The executives watched in silence as Brad's discrimination played out in real time. Someone like you doesn't belong in first class. The words sounded even worse through the conference speakers. Jesus, Richard muttered. How long has he been with the company? David accessed HR records. 3 years, 47 customer complaints filed against him, mostly about attitude and unprofessional behavior. 47 complaints and he's still employed? Amara's voice carried quiet fury. The complaints were considered minor, written warnings, sensitivity training recommendations. Recommendations, not requirements. David's silence answered the question. Amara pulled up another file. I've been researching our discrimination incident data. Since 2020, Delta has paid $847 million in discrimination settlements and legal fees. The number hit the executives like a physical blow. $847 million. Because we keep employees like Brad Hoffman. Because we treat discrimination complaints as minor issues. Because we prioritize employee protection over passenger dignity. Sarah reviewed the legal implications. If this goes to court, we're looking at punitive damages. The recording shows clear evidence of racial discrimination. A jury would crucify us. What about our existing anti-discrimination policies? Richard asked. Lisa pulled up the company handbook. We have policies, training programs, reporting procedures, but enforcement is inconsistent. Local managers have discretion in disciplinary actions. Local managers like Tom Richards, who let Brad accumulate 47 complaints without serious consequences. Amara's research was thorough, damaging, undeniable. What are our options? Richard asked. Sarah outlined the legal landscape. We can settle quickly and quietly, pay whatever demands are made, hope the story dies down. Or we can fight it, claim Brad acted outside company policy, argue that one employee's actions don't represent corporate culture. Amara laughed. Not with humor, with disbelief. Fight it? There are 2 million people who watched your employee call me someone like you. The recording is permanently archived on social media platforms. Fighting it would be corporate suicide. He opened another presentation. I have a third option. The executives leaned forward. We fix the problem. Permanently. Systematically. David looked skeptical. What kind of fix? Complete overhaul of discrimination prevention and response. Real-time monitoring systems. Immediate accountability protocols. Public transparency reporting. Richard studied the proposal. What would that cost? $50 million for initial implementation, $15 million annually for ongoing operations. The executives exchanged glances. $50 million was significant but not devastating for a company with $58 billion in annual revenue. Compare that to $847 million in legal settlements over the past 4 years. Amara continued. This isn't just about money. It's about whether Delta wants to be known as the airline that discriminates or the airline that leads. Lisa considered the communications angle. A proactive response could turn the narrative around. Instead of fighting bad publicity, we become the example other companies follow. Sarah nodded. Legally, it would demonstrate good faith. Show we're taking meaningful action rather than just managing PR. David outlined implementation challenges. Retraining 75,000 employees. Installing monitoring systems at 400 airports. Restructuring disciplinary procedures. Achievable, Amara said. The question is whether we have the will to do it. Richard was quiet for several minutes, processing the options. As CEO, he faced a defining moment. The decision would shape Delta's culture for years. What happens to Brad Hoffman? Termination for cause. Forfeiture of pension benefits. Public acknowledgement of discrimination. And Tom Richards? Suspension pending investigation. Mandatory training. Probationary period with oversight. The other employees who witnessed the incident? Retraining for everyone at LAX, new protocols. Regular testing. Richard made the decision that would reshape Delta's approach to discrimination. Do it. All of it. Full implementation. I want this to be the last time we have this conversation. Sarah began outlining legal protections. We'll need ironclad documentation, every policy change, every training session, every disciplinary action. Lisa started planning the public response. We go full transparency, regular progress reports, public metrics, complete accountability. David calculated timelines. 6 months for initial rollout, 12 months for full implementation, ongoing monitoring and adjustment. Amara smiled for the first time since the confrontation began. There's one more component. Personal accountability for executives. The call went silent. Every executive performance review will include discrimination prevention metrics, stock options tied to diversity and inclusion goals, personal liability for systemic failures. Richard's expression was unreadable. Including CEO performance? Especially CEO performance. The weight of personal accountability changed the dynamic completely. This wasn't just about company policy anymore. It was about individual careers and compensation. If we're going to fix this problem, everyone needs skin in the game, from gate agents to board members. Richard looked around the virtual conference room. His executive team waited for his response. Agreed, full accountability, all levels. The decision was final, binding, revolutionary. I'll draft the public statement, Lisa said. Full apology, comprehensive action plan, timeline for implementation. I'll handle the legal framework, Sarah added. Bulletproof policies, clear enforcement mechanisms. HR will coordinate training and disciplinary actions, David confirmed. Amara closed her laptop. I'll present the plan to the full board at tomorrow's meeting, along with the CEO selection recommendation. Richard's future depended on handling this crisis correctly. What's your recommendation? This depends on how well you execute these changes. The video conference ended. Amara sat back in her first-class seat, looking out at the dark sky below. In 12 hours, she would walk into a boardroom and determine the future of a company worth $60 billion. But first, she had to land in Atlanta and make sure Brad Hoffman never humiliated another passenger. The next morning brought swift justice. By 9 a.m. Eastern, Brad Hoffman was cleaning out his desk. His termination letter, leaked to social media within hours, became the most shared corporate disciplinary action in airline history. Effective immediately, Brad Hoffman is terminated from Delta Airlines for violation of company anti-discrimination policies and damage to corporate reputation. His actions do not represent our values or standards. The letter was signed by CEO Richard Hayes personally. No middle management buffer, no corporate legal language, direct accountability from the top. Tom Richards fared better, but not by much. Suspended without pay for 30 days. Mandatory bias training. Probationary status for 12 months. His 47 ignored complaints against Brad became Exhibit A in Delta's internal investigation. The viral video continued spreading. 5 million views across platforms. International news coverage. Late-night comedy show segments. The story transcended airline industry news to become a cultural moment. But Amara wasn't interested in revenge. She was interested in revolution. The Respect in Flight program launched 6 weeks later. $50 million in funding. AI-powered cameras at every gate, trained to detect discriminatory behavior patterns. Real-time alerts sent directly to corporate headquarters when incidents occurred. The technology was sophisticated. Facial expression analysis, voice tone recognition, pattern identification. When gate agents raised their voices or used dismissive body language with passengers, supervisors received immediate notifications. More importantly, passengers received immediate assistance. a dedicated hotline staffed 24/7 by trained advocates. Automatic compensation for discrimination incidents. Public quarterly reports showing exactly how many complaints were filed and resolved. The system worked. Discrimination complaints dropped 67% in the first 6 months. Customer satisfaction scores reached all-time highs. Delta's stock price recovered and climbed, higher than before the incident. Other airlines took notice. United announced similar programs within 3 months. American Airlines followed 6 weeks later. Southwest launched their Equality in the Skies initiative by year-end. The entire industry was transforming because one woman refused to accept humiliation quietly. Congress noticed, too. Representative Maria Rodriguez from California called hearings on airline discrimination. The Department of Transportation launched industry-wide investigations. New federal regulations required bias training for all airport personnel. Brad Hoffman's public apology, required as part of his termination agreement, became a case study in corporate crisis management. I made assumptions about Dr. Williams based on her appearance. Those assumptions were wrong, hurtful, and inexcusable. I let my unconscious bias override my professional training. I take full responsibility for my actions and their consequences. The apology was viewed 3.2 million times. Comments ranged from supportive to savage. Some viewers appreciated his accountability. Others felt it was too little, too late. Amara watched the apology from her corporate office in Atlanta. Delta's new headquarters building was under construction, with a wing dedicated to diversity and inclusion programs. Her recommendation had been approved unanimously. Richard Hayes kept his job as CEO. The board voted confidence in his crisis management and commitment to systemic change. But his compensation was now tied to diversity metrics. Stock options vested only if discrimination complaints stayed below baseline levels. Every Delta executive faced similar accountability measures. Personal financial consequences for corporate discrimination. Skin in the game for everyone. The Harvard Business School case study was published 8 months later. The Williams Protocol, Crisis Management and Systemic Reform in Corporate America. MBA students would analyze the incident for decades, learning how one person's dignity could reshape an entire industry. Dr. Amara Williams was named Corporate Leader of the Year by the NAACP. Time magazine included her in their 100 Most Influential People issue. She spoke at conferences worldwide about unconscious bias and corporate accountability. But her proudest moment came 6 months after the incident. A young black woman approached her at Reagan National Airport. "Excuse me, are you Dr. Williams, the lady from the Delta video?" Amara nodded, expecting the usual thanks or congratulations. "I just wanted you to know, I flew Delta last week. The gate agent was so polite and professional. She helped me find my seat, asked if I needed anything, treated me like I mattered." The woman paused, emotion creeping into her voice. "That's never happened to me before. Flying used to be stressful because I never knew if I'd be treated with respect. Now, I know I will be." That conversation was worth more than any award or recognition. One person's experience of dignity and respect, multiplied across thousands of passengers every day. The ripple effects continued expanding. Hotels implemented similar monitoring systems. Retail chains adopted bias detection technology. Restaurant corporations required discrimination prevention training. The Williams Protocol became shorthand for corporate accountability done right. Swift action. Systemic change. Personal consequences. Public transparency. Legal scholars debated whether private companies could effectively self-regulate discrimination. The Delta case provided compelling evidence that market pressures and public accountability could drive meaningful change faster than regulatory enforcement alone. Employment lawyers began citing the incident in discrimination training sessions. The recording became required viewing for corporate diversity programs. Brad Hoffman's assumptions about passenger appearance became a cautionary tale told in boardrooms across America. 2 years later, the numbers told the story better than any speech could. Delta's discrimination complaints, down 73% from pre-incident levels. Customer satisfaction scores, highest in company history. Employee retention, up 23% after comprehensive bias training. Stock price, 47% higher than the day of the LAX confrontation. The Respect in Flight program had become Delta's most successful initiative. Other industries studied their model. Universities taught case studies. Government agencies consulted their protocols. But the real measure of success wasn't corporate metrics. It was human dignity. Amara received hundreds of letters from passengers sharing their experiences. Elderly travelers treated with patience. Families with disabilities given extra assistance. Young people of color boarding flights without fear of humiliation. One letter stood out, from a teenage girl in Detroit. Dr. Williams, I'm applying to college next year. My guidance counselor said I should consider business school. She showed me your video and said, "That's what real leadership looks like. I want to be like you someday. Someone who stands up for what's right, even when it's hard." The letter was signed future CEO Jasmine Washington. Amara framed it in her office, next to her Harvard MBA diploma and her NAACP award. Inspiration for the next generation mattered more than any corporate recognition. The media coverage had faded, but the institutional changes remained. Permanent, structural, irreversible. Brad Hoffman had found work at a small regional airline. His social media presence disappeared. His LinkedIn profile listed no current employment. The viral video would follow him forever, a digital scarlet letter reminding everyone of the price of prejudice. Some people criticized the severity of his punishment. Others argued it wasn't enough. Amara remained focused on prevention rather than punishment. The goal was never to destroy one person's life, she told CNN in a follow-up interview. The goal was to ensure no other passenger faces what I faced that night. The interview aired on the 2-year anniversary of the incident. Deltagate trended again, but this time the conversation focused on progress rather than outrage. Airlines reported industry-wide improvements in customer service. Discrimination complaints across all carriers had dropped significantly. The Amara effect had transformed business travel for millions of people. Corporate America was watching. Retail companies implemented similar monitoring systems. Restaurant chains adopted bias detection protocols. Hotel corporations required sensitivity training for all customer-facing employees. The ripple effects continued, expanding, creating a more respectful society, one interaction at a time. These touching stories remind us why sharing Black stories matters. They're not just personal experiences. They're real-life stories that change how we see power, dignity, and justice. When we witness discrimination, we have a choice. Stay silent or speak up. Life stories like Amara's show us that one person's courage can transform entire industries. The video that started it all, 5 minutes of confrontation at LAX, had been viewed over 50 million times. Comments sections filled with similar stories from viewers. Discrimination experiences shared publicly for the first time. Support networks forming organically. Amara's final words in the CNN interview became a rallying cry for corporate accountability. Real power isn't about getting revenge. It's about making sure the next person doesn't need to. When we use our privilege to protect others, we create a better world for everyone. The message resonated across social media, shared by executives and entry-level employees alike, quoted in graduation speeches and boardroom presentations. What would you do if you witnessed discrimination? Would you speak up? Would you use your phone to record? Would you stand with the victim or stay silent? Your voice matters. Your actions count. Your story could be the next one that changes everything. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. Comment below with your own experiences. Subscribe to stay updated on stories that matter. Together, we can ensure that dignity and respect aren't privileges, they're rights that everyone deserves.